Shocking developments overnight as the president floats a potential deal to send out second stimulus checks to you right away. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mornings LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. Always at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time every morning. Part of a 3.5-hour schedule of programming from LALATE, now the net's quickest and most popular growing financial news network. Let's get to the shocking details, which you're going to only hear on this channel, about what could be conspiring and transpiring over delivery of second stimulus checks to you in a manner never been reported before until this broadcast. If you look at the calendar, if you look at the source of funds, and if you look at the amount of money, it now appears that the president may be plotting to send out second stimulus checks in a manner no one has ever seen before, and has the funds for it, and the checks would land in your bank account on the eve of you starting to do mail-in balloting for the fall election. Boy, if no one has ever done this analysis, well, you're hearing it for the first time today. The numbers at issue are a combination of two things: the amount of resources, the number of citizens that need to receive a check, and also the date and time of when election voting can start and will start, and when ballots can be dispersed. It's really quite shocking. Mitch McConnell had said that this fall election is really tied up into stimulus relief. That's unlike the first stimulus package. This second stimulus check and stimulus package is really tied up and anchored into everything that's in the election. Let me get to incredible details. Based upon the calculations I see, it is highly likely that the president is considering delivering you second stimulus checks, which would arrive in your bank account around October 8th, just days before some states start to do mail-in balloting in early October, and on the eve of the November 3rd election night. As I've been detailing for weeks, this race, this presidential race between Joe Biden and President Trump, is really a 3 percentage point race. And anyone that understands numbers understands the impact, because in the first stimulus care package, the first stimulus check, when it was sent to American citizens, the president jumped in 3 percentage points the minute the citizens received the check. It didn't jump on announcement of a deal. It didn't jump on disbursement of the checks. It jumped when they received the checks. Citizens actually reacted by a 3 percentage point higher in the polls when they had received the first stimulus check from the president. Under that theory, when would they receive the second stimulus check under this incredible details being detailed for the first time today? And when would that 3 percentage pop occur? Literally just days before they start to fill in their mail-in ballots. Boy, oh boy. Let me get to the incredible details, and then I will get to the backstory. The incredible details is that there's $300 billion that the president has identified as funds that he shall or may use. More about that in a second. And that by all accounts, people that got first stimulus checks under the first stimulus package, which is a slightly narrower cross-section, more about that in a second, was 160 million individuals or 160 million households. These numbers are very fluid, very understand. When the president says 300 billion, he's just not being exact, nor is 160 million an exact number as well. Let's divide 300 billion by 160 million. Guess what you get? You get 1875, 1,875. Again, that's referring to a household. It's more than $1,200. There you go. Let's talk about routing times. Okay, so we had all talked about next week the second stimulus package being introduced by the Republicans to the Senate. Under the current hypothesis of what this could transpire is the Senate approves their bill next week or 1 week after next week. Within next week or the start of the week after. Then it goes to the House. Under this theory, the president would act if the Temple of Doom causes him problems. When would those problems manifest themselves? They would manifest themselves about 14 days from today's recording, because remember, the Senate's coming back in session next week. They're going to receive the bill. They're not going to approve the bill the same day they receive it. Mark Meadows has said it'll take a week for the Senate to approve it and the House to approve it. That's a week from now. Let's add one more week to that for the Temple of Doom to just, try to torch and scorch and burn anything she receives approved from the Senate in the House. 13 days from that would be, 13 days from that would be about, or 13 days from today would be about September 25th. Okay, September 25th, the day at which the president could potentially announce, I'm done with this madness. I'm sending out second stimulus checks by executive order from funds that I have identified mounting to $300 billion. When would American citizens receive those funds if he announced it on September 25th? By all accounts, based upon IRS's own documentation, Steve Mnuchin's own representation as head of Treasury, as I've been reporting, it would be about October 8th that you would physically receive a check by executive order announced on September 25th. Approximately. So then what comes next? You receive the funds on October 8th approximately. Mail-in voting starts around October 15th. By all accords, you would have the check in hand on around the time that you start to fill out mail-in balloting for the presidential election. That basically sometimes is about a 15 or 10-day window to do mail-in balloting. And on November 3rd is the election night. Boy, this is a bombshell of no bombshell that you have ever heard until this channel today. Back in the day, I would always shout bombshell when talking about EIDL loans, but this is one to really shout about. Oh, can he pull this off? Before the naysayers jump in the comments, consider this. It's highly likely he can. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, let me run his quote from yesterday, and I'm going to run everyone's quote because you have to watch the verb tenses and the way that people are speaking, because there's more to the sentence when there's 2 or 3 sentences. The president said yesterday, we have, meaning the federal government, $300 billion ready to go, meaning it can be dispersed right away. All Congress has to do is say, use it. I'd like to use it without their permission, but I guess I'm not allowed. Pause. There's more to the sentence. We're willing to spend it. I'd like to get general approval from Congress. There's a theory that I don't need to do that, but I'd rather be upfront, and I'd like to get approval from Congress. When you read the entire quote, you see exactly what he's saying, which is what he said before in other situations. Remember what he said before? I'd rather get approval from Congress to send out another round of enhanced unemployment benefits, but there's a theory that I can do it. And he did it. LWA. Remember when, as Mark Meadows said, we are working on other theories and other mannerisms to get funds out to the American people by executive order if Congress won't act. And they did. How about eviction moratorium? We're working on a way, I'll have that quoted for you in a second. We're working on a way to get an eviction moratorium out to members of this country because Congress won't act, and we're trying to figure out a way to do it. As you sit here in September, would you have ever thought a month ago that an eviction moratorium would have been issued in this country by CDC, Center for Disease Control? No. Would you have ever thought that the president would have found funds for enhanced unemployment benefits from a fund sitting somewhere that has nothing to do with Treasury? When everyone was talking about Treasury sending out FPUC 2.0, Treasury sending out LWA, and the president found the funds somewhere else? Would you have ever thought that the president would have used lawyers around the clock for 2 to 3 weeks during negotiations to prepare and draft executive orders, as he did, and to announce executive orders on Saturday afternoons, after lawyers have been working on these executive orders around the clock and figuring out how to legally do them in a manner in which to use funds in a manner that could be supported in a court of law? You have never thought that would have happened, but it's now happened, what? 2 times? 3 times? 4 times. This is the biggest one. It's the biggest one because it ultimately could determine the president of the United States this fall. It's the biggest one because it's the one that impacts the most people. Enhanced unemployment benefits helps people who are unemployed. Eviction moratorium helps people who are facing eviction. But how about stimulus checks? Now, this is not to say the president is doing this. This is not to say the president has done it. This is not to say the president will do this. It's to say that this is teed up exactly like how the president has done everything in the last 30 days to 60 days. When something impedes, he does it, and he tips you off ahead of time before he does it. As some viewers may say, just tell me when it happens. No, I'm not here to tell you something after the fact. I'm here to tell you something before it happens. And this could be the before it happens. Mike Pence yesterday said the following: we'd like to extend enhanced unemployment benefits, and we'd like to send out more economic impact checks. That's Mike Pence. Economic impact checks is stimulus checks. Those have been critical. Excuse me, that was Steve Mnuchin. Let me restate that quote again. That was Steve Mnuchin. We'd like to extend enhanced unemployment, and I'd like to send out more economic impact checks. Those have been critical to the economic recovery. This is a comment by Steve Mnuchin last week before Congressional House Committee broadcasted on national news. AKA, we want to and will send out stimulus checks. This is Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump. What's more important, not just important, more important, is that getting money to American workers, American families, kids. There's a tremendous areas of agreement, and that's what we should be doing right away. Let's dissect that sentence, shall we? American kids, who's that? What would American kids get under a second stimulus package? Stimulus check. There's nothing else an American kid could get. No offense to kids, but that's they could get benefits for schools, and schools are safer. But to give money, when he's saying giving money, the sentence says getting money, that means stimulus check. American families, what would American families get? Well, as the money, stimulus checks. American workers, what would American workers get as the money? Stimulus checks or enhanced unemployment benefits. I'd be willing to sit down at any time on the negotiation table with Speaker Pelosi at no conditions whatsoever at any time. Let's move forward on a bipartisan basis so we can agree upon the president and I want to move forward. Okay, this is Steve Mnuchin saying the president and I want to move forward to get stimulus checks out. He says direct economic impact payments. Then he says he wants to get to it. It can't be any clearer than that. This is just days before the president said yesterday he wants the checks to go out. Mike Pence yesterday as well. Nobody wants to give direct payments to American families more than Donald Trump. We sent those checks to American families. It helped people through this tough time. And then we have Mark Meadows. We have half a dozen comments. If you've not seen, you have had comments from the president himself, his Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, his VP Mike Pence, his Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, all talking about stimulus checks going out. We have gone from a month in which we never heard them talking about any of the stimulus checks to now talking about it ad nauseum in the last 24 hours. Steve Mnuchin said just a few days ago that the president was working on an eviction moratorium in a way in which would be novel. He tipped us off. You'll see rolling out specific guidelines that I think you'll appreciate that are quite significant on allowing moratoriums for people who certify that they can make rental payments due to coronavirus-related issues. Okay, I want to show you something here. This is a quote from Steve Mnuchin a few weeks ago, the one I just read to you, where people have to certify that they can make their rental payments, allowing significant appreciation. It's exactly what the CDC order said this week. If you didn't watch Rental with LALATE every day and on the afternoons of LALATE, the rental bill says you have to certify by declaration that you're impacted by COVID-19. And this is a comment by Steve Mnuchin 2 weeks ago indicating what was going to happen this week. You think that these people aren't preparing these things ahead of time? Yeah, that's why you tune to the Purple Hour. I tell you stuff literally 2 weeks at a time. Because if you look at people's quotes and you look at them very slowly, you realize they're tipping you off as to what's coming on next. Boy, very exciting. House a spokesperson for Speaker of Nancy Pelosi did not respond to comments last night. I was under the blow dryer, so you had no ability to answer comments. So there you go. Boy, I don't know what verb you want to use. I was about to use scheming. I don't think it's an appropriate word. But plotting, preparing, figuring out, endeavoring, scheduling that the president is undergoing to get stuff out to you is very apparent. If you don't see the writing on the wall, then tell the hairdresser to get the hair out of your eyes. It's very clear. So let's go back over those numbers again. By any implication of this theory, the president would want the stimulus check in the hands of American voters before they start to do mail-in balloting. He wouldn't normally, in another election, in any other year, he would probably want it before you go into the polling places. But since a lot of people may not be going into polling places, he wants it a certain number of days before they get their mail-in ballots, because the mail-in ballots is just a finite period of time. Now, ultimately, every state has different timelines for mail-in ballots. Every state does mail-in ballots differently. I got it. I don't need someone to jump in the comments and say, we started mail-in ballots yesterday, so that doesn't really work. I just see that coming. I just see that coming. The bottom line is that the checks get to you before you vote. I mean, we see that as the writing on the wall, and we understand that a 3 percentage point could change the entire face of this election. Ironically, as we sit here today, we have not seen two things, and these are the most obvious elephants in the room. We have never seen Joe Biden talk about Nancy Pelosi's stimulus package right now. Do you notice that? We've always heard him talk about his stimulus package in January. And we've never seen Nancy Pelosi talk about Joe Biden's stimulus package as well. It's as though one has nothing to do with the other. It's as though, perhaps, Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to give you any stimulus until the president loses the election. And that she wants you to wait until January, when Joe Biden comes into office. It's hard to say, but one thing that's very apparent, and we certainly understand history, President Obama and Joe Biden came into office and immediately had to do an economic recovery act on the heels of a prior president to turn around the economy, and have certainly done this before and would endeavor to do it again. The question is whether this president is going to allow someone to, or allow a woman out of San Francisco to cause the economy to get worse to ensure that he does not win the election, so that she then does stimulus in January. It still remains a threat and a concern. And I do believe, and I think you have to believe this as well, no matter how partisan you may be, that this president fully understands the impact of putting money in people's hands right before they go into election polling place or doing a mail-in balloting. Second, fully understands that Democrats may be endeavoring to never give you stimulus, literally down to the very last day before the election, and then give you stimulus the next day. He fully understands that those two things are possibilities. And with that, I don't think anyone in their right mind thinks that this president, with his way of doing things, is going to let Nancy Pelosi not put stimulus in the hands of the American people so that he does not get reelected. Have Nancy Pelosi block the bill that's going to go into the Senate next week and get approved in the Senate by Republicans, not get approved by the Democrats in the House. I don't think he's going to let her play that game. And so this might be his game. Coming up this afternoon's LALATE, boy, you got to tune in. I mean, no one's doing this type of stuff for you than me. I understand a lot of you are on vacation, so happy Labor Day weekend. Or if you're just at home relaxing by the pool, or relaxing by the beach, or going to the park, getting the barbecue grilled up. I'd love to hear what you're doing. I just love to hear what my viewers do on a daily basis. It's my way to connect. It's also my way to remember who you are. So if I see it's, Jennifer was barbecuing and Tona was, at the dog park, and, Kimberly was at the beach, I love to hear what y'all doing, because it keeps me in touch with you. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe and alert button on the front of this channel, and like this video. It really helps. Coming up afternoon's LALATE, as we really try to revamp things. If you didn't notice, we're now very much on schedule. We're no longer late LALATE. We're actually on schedule. So we've revamped some production scheduling, so it ensures that viewership stays, has the programming delivered to them literally by the minute on time. We have 3.5 hours of programming today that continues at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, with afternoon's LALATE. It starts with a check, then goes to hazard pay, then FPUC, and then rent. A new video every 30 minutes, starting at 3:30. Then at 6:30, we're moving it slightly up, is stimulus check again, starting on evening's LALATE and continuing to either a special or EIDL. Last night it was a combination of both. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay focused. Happy weekend. Congratulations, you made it there. And as always, stay of LA for more.